any delegate responsibility, or if you're simply a parent or just any other citizen here, we're anxious to be part of a democratic republic process of choosing our representatives and our leaders. My name is Pike Goss. I live in Alpine. I'm a state delegate for Precinct 302 in Alpine. And we'd like to go ahead and start with an opening prayer, which, if you don't mind, I'd like to give. And following the opening prayer, we have the Pledge of Allegiance. We will be led by Greg Adams over here in the red. Greg is a precinct chair in Pleasant Grove, Precinct 314. And then following Greg, we will be led in the national anthem by Ella Zimmerman, who is over here, and she is a senior at American Heritage School. We're really proud to have some of our students here with us today. So I'll go ahead and begin with an opening prayer. Our kind and gracious Heavenly Father, we come before thee with humble hearts, anxious to be engaged in a process to vet and choose those who are going to represent us in all levels of government. We're so grateful to be part of the land of the free. We love and want to preserve our liberties. We would like to counter the forces of evil that seem to be charging against us. And we ask for thy favor and thy blessing as we gather tonight, that we might have a spirit of kindness and cooperation, and that we might feel inspired by the messages that will be given, and that our hearts might be moved, and that we might change for the better and get behind those who will serve us well. We're grateful for our friends and our family members and our neighbors that either can't or won't be here. Help us to serve them well. We're grateful for our founders. We're grateful for existing leaders that have done a service. We hope to be retiring some of them soon. And bless us in an effort of goodness, that thou might be proud of who we are and how we're directing the affairs of this wonderful and beautiful free land. And we invoke thy spirit to be with us as we try to make these judgment calls. And we ask for these favors and blessings, and do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise. Gentlemen, please remove your hats. Any veterans are welcome to render a hand salute should they so choose. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please remain standing for the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave
All right, you may be seated. We've got a wonderful program tonight, and we're gonna cut right to the chase. Before we start, I'd like to share with you the story that brought me into the wanting of trying to create a gathering like this. I had met with Chris Herod and with Tim Alders, and I hadn't yet met with Jason. And I ended up attending the Heber event where Jason had all those tap dancers and the wonderful country music and the great message in that Heber barn. I don't know if were any of you there. Can you raise your hand if you were there at that event? I was really inspired by that event. I loved the feeling. I loved his constitutional teachings and principles and his message. And I went up to Jason and Alexia afterwards, and I said, "Hey, Jason, I think I can maybe pull together a few people in Alpine, Highland, Cedar Hills, and let's just get you a little effort over there." And Alexia said that we may have another one, a cottage meeting already arranged through Annie Taylor, and you'll meet Annie today at her home. And I'm like, well, maybe we need to expand the venue because maybe we can join some forces. And so Annie and I got together. We decided maybe a larger venue would be appropriate. And your nerves are always on end when you're trying to create something like this because you don't know if 2 people are going to show. It's going to be an absolute failure, or if it's going to be overrun. We were very encouraged by the attendance today. But I think the efforts for us state delegates at this point in time is to vet candidates. And I have an interest in making sure that more voice is being heard, whoever the candidates are, and more opportunities, and even lay members of our community, not just us state delegates, because you can prime the pump here for primaries and general elections and some other things. And so my intent has been to create not only this meeting, but maybe another 1 or 2 meetings where additional voices can be heard too, and you can hear what we're hearing, and we can be inspired together and possibly unified together over these principles that we get as communities. But it's our politicians somehow either forget them or they don't get them. And as Annie and myself and Greg have been collaborating a little bit behind the scenes, we're just passionate about trying to find representatives that get the fundamental principles, not only the Constitution, but quite frankly, even the Republican platform. And which is amazing to us. We don't have Republicans abiding by the Republican platform. And so we'd like to see those people exit fairly quickly. And if that's all they did, we would have some winners in office. And so we come at this as lay citizens, state delegates, really feeling imperfect ourselves. We're very grateful that you've come. We hope this is an inspiring meeting. By the way, this is not meant to be an endorsement from American Heritage School to any of these candidates, nor is it meant to be an endorsement from any of the candidates to any of the candidates. We were trying to find a very neutral venue, and we couldn't find one weeks ago, and Jason's campaign found this one for us, and we very much appreciate them coming through last minute and making this impact with Jason. Synergy Science and all your friends here, and so we just appreciate a venue so we can meet, and may we have many, many more of these the next couple weeks in the upcoming months. So, with that understanding, we'll go ahead and turn the time over to Grant Corey. Grant is also from American Heritage School. He's a senior there. He's going to speak on his favorite founder. Following Grant, we have Isabel Fee. We call her Izzy. She is the student body president at American Heritage School. She's going to be speaking on I Have Hope for the Future, which hopefully our kids will set the tone of why we're here. Following the 2 speakers, we'll turn the time over to Annie for a brief moment, who's going to introduce the women who are running for the school board office, and we'll go to that point in the program. Okay, Grant?
Good evening. My name is Grant Corey, and I'm a senior at AHS. And first off, I'd just like to say that I'm very grateful and honored to be here. So I wanted to share what my favorite founding fathers were. And my favorite founding fathers are Thomas Jefferson and John Adams. And I chose them because throughout their lives, they stood valiantly for what they believed in, and yet still stood for uniting the peoples of America. And both men had drastically different beliefs in government and had different ideals, with John Adams being a Federalist and Thomas Jefferson being very opposed to federalism. However, despite these drastic differences in their ideologies, these men are a reminder of the importance of seeing each other as Americans and people first and partisans second. Throughout their lives in offices, the two men had many interactions with each other, and this ranged from slander to heartfelt friendship and fellowship. First, John Adams and Thomas Jefferson were part of the Continental Congress, and during that time they did respect each other and worked with each other to create a free nation. Then in the early 1800s, that respect was shattered as the two men fought and bickered and allowed themselves to slander one another again as they ran for the office of president. And then after that, for many years, the two barely spoke to each other. Until at the end of their lives, and after most of their generation had passed, they were reached out to by Benjamin Rush, a fellow friend and signer of the Constitution. Benjamin wrote to each saying that the other wanted to rekindle their friendship, though none of them had ever said that. But because of that, the two began writing letters to each other. And over the course of the next 14 years, they wrote 185 letters to each other, cementing their friendship even after so much conflict. Now, they died within hours of each other on the 4th of July, 1826, the 50-year anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. And to me, that left behind them a legacy of liberty and fellowship. Now, the reason I chose them as my favorite founding fathers and what inspires me is despite the fact that they had so much that was different about them, they didn't seem to have so much in common about what they stood for and what they believed in. And yet, despite that, they recognized the fact that we are all joined together in the cause of freedom. And their friendship lasted 14 years and longer. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Isabel Fee, as you heard earlier, or Izzy, and I am the student body president of American Heritage School. I'm so honored and grateful for this opportunity to be able to speak in front of you today. So I am supposed to speak on the hope for America and of the rising generation. As many of you all know, teenagers can be pretty difficult. My mom said that basically you send an I love you text and they respond with a thumbs up. And her friend said, we have teens so that they can stretch the heck out of us. Joking aside, we hear a lot today about how terrible teens are and how little hope there is for a generation, but this cannot be more wrong. Throughout his ministry, President Thomas S. Monson, the prophet of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, made an effort to address the issue of how teenagers are perceived in the media. He says, such examples blur our vision and fault our thinking. Soon assumptions become generally accepted opinions, and all youth everywhere are categorized as not so good as yesteryear, or the worst generation yet. How wrong are such opinions, how incorrect are such statements, he continues. True today is a new day, with new trials, new tribulations, and new temptations. But hundreds of thousands of Latter-day Saint youth constantly strive and serve diligently, true to the faith. This is something that I witnessed firsthand, is how amazing the youth of today actually are. And last year, I had the opportunity to assist in the Wreaths Across America project. And the students of American Heritage School, the entire high school, were able to assist in this in commemorating veterans buried in the Highland Cemetery. We did this by making over 100 wreaths and laying them on every grave of the veterans in that cemetery. We were the first in the nation to lay a wreath on every single veteran's grave in a cemetery. Afterwards, there was a ceremony in which I had the opportunity to speak alongside Judge Bullock. I will never forget what she said. She said, "We had hope, and now we know that the rising generation will not forget the price we paid for them." This struck me. As the next generation, we have so much influence. We are young, we are smart, and we will decide on a bright future. Sometimes the future can feel bleak as the world grows more and more evil. But I can promise that the legacy of those who have gone before will not be lost with this next generation. We will not forget their sacrifices. We will carry the torch and light the flame to the next generation. So although the world grows increasingly evil, this generation will be a beacon of hope for the future as we remember the sacrifices of generations that have gone before. We will not forget their legacy. Thank you.
Everyone for coming. Good evening, my name is Annie Taylor. I am just a mom here in Highland, and I absolutely love my country. And this year at caucus, I went expecting to see a lot of my neighbors there and a lot of unhappy patriots that wanted to take their country back. And I was a little disappointed because our caucus was pretty empty, and I was used to seeing it a lot fuller in my past. And I realized there was a big need for the people in my generation, my age group, to step up and start taking the wheel and making a difference and trying to find the right candidates. And I have been looking far and wide for the people that I feel like touch my heart and put America first. And I'm looking for the candidates that when they're speaking, talk about God and their family and their love of this country. And I just want to thank the people that are here today as candidates. These are handpicked by me and my fellow patriots, friends, Pike and Greg, and the people that we trust to put in charge of our children's future with the schools and also in DC and Congress. And I just want to introduce one of my heroes. She doesn't even know that she's a hero of mine, but Natalie Cline. She has 8 children shared between her and her husband. I love you, and you don't even know who I am. But I'm so grateful that you took the mob on and that you defended our schools and that you put my kids first and that you were willing to take those arrows in your back for little kids in America that love this country and that deserve to go to school without socialism and indoctrination and any kind of, in my opinion, unnecessary sexual agendas for children.
Amen.
She paved the way, and you spoke out when nobody else would. And you are a light to all of the moms here in Utah. And we're counting on you to keep going, and we love you for standing up. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being on the school board and defending our children.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I used to say I'm just a mom, but I'm a mom. And moms are going to take back our country. And we're so grateful that the men are starting to stand up and come with us side by side to defend this rising generation that are the focus and who the left has their targets set on. And if we don't take care of them, we don't stand and defend them, who's going to? There's a lot of people that have an agenda for our kids, which translates into an agenda for our country and our freedom. And so I did this because I felt like we didn't really have any other choice. If we want to preserve what we have, we need all hands on deck. not just me, but everybody else. And so I'm just thrilled beyond belief that so many people have awoken and are rallying together and standing shoulder to shoulder in defense of our little ones. They deserve our very, very best efforts. So thank you for becoming a delegate. Thank you to those that are running for office, that are showing courage and faith. That's what it takes. We need people that are going to put God first and that will put their trust in Him instead of in the arm of flesh. Because truly, this is His battle, and without Him, we can't win. So thank you. Just to clarify, I'm not running this year. I'm not up until 2024, but I'm grateful for the invitation to come and address you tonight. I'm grateful, again, for those that have decided to run. I have chosen not to officially endorse anybody, just because it's kind of a double-edged sword. It might actually hurt them. But that doesn't mean I won't be cheering them on behind the scenes. So I want to start out, again, my name is Natalie Cline. I am a member of the state school board. I am not speaking on behalf of the board, but will share with you my own thoughts and opinions. I am a member of the board, but that is not who I really am. None of us are defined by our jobs, okay? I know who I am. I am a daughter, a sister, a wife, a mother, an aunt, a grandmother of almost 7 little ones, and I'm a daughter of the Most High God and a citizen of the greatest nation on earth, established by God to be a light unto all other nations. I know who I am. Do you know who you are? We have an epidemic of identity theft in our country unlike any our modern society has ever experienced. Everywhere you turn, people are forgetting who they really are. This plague is especially severe among the rising generation. It is up to us that know who we are to help our children remember who they are and who our country and who we are as a country. Where do we begin? This is so big and it goes so deep. First, we start by recognizing the lies we've been told. Next, we refuse to live by those lies. We refuse to go along with them or to be silent in the face of lies. Then we expose the lies. Then we proclaim the truth boldly, unapologetically, and consistently, especially to our children. They need us to proclaim the truth, and we need to speak it to them. It's not enough to know the truth. We have to speak it. Otherwise, it will disappear, even in the face of persecution and ridicule and slander. We have to speak the truth. Otherwise, the lies become the norm. And the next generation won't know any different. The world says love is love. But love is not love if it is devoid of truth. Our culture is wrongly equating loving everyone with approving everything, proclaiming that everything goes, that there is no right or wrong. That is the recipe of disaster that has brought us to the breaking point. Our children need rescuing from the cunning, crafty, soul-destroying lies that they are immersed in our public education system. Please help rescue our children from those who are teaching them lies by electing individuals that will expose the lies and hold the perpetrators accountable. Anyone that fights against transparency must have something to hide. We need to elect individuals who will weed out the bad apples by insisting on nothing less than total transparency. There is an ideological coup happening in our schools. From critical race theory to social emotional learning to comprehensive sexuality education and gender ideology, being imposed upon our children. Academics are being replaced by a hyper-focus on behavioral assessments, medical and mental health, sexualized books and teachings that pit kids against their parents and against their friends in order to make them more loyal to the state. School has become about changing values, attitudes, beliefs, behaviors, dispositions, and even reshaping personalities. Schools now teach the importance of sacrificing the individual for the collective good. We know where that comes from. COVID was the light switch that they used to start this. It was happening before, but this set it off at an exponentially accelerated pace. They masked our kids, they made them social distance, and then they taught them about oppression while they were being oppressed. The indoctrination started when parents weren't allowed in the schools. Some kids were lucky they did it from home and their parents caught what was happening, and now we have a nation awake to the awful situation that we are in. We have all of these things that have happened to our children, and now we wonder that the state perpetrated on them, and now we wonder why they are struggling so much. Well, they created the problem so they could come in with their pre-baked solutions. I have been in meeting after meeting where the push is for more and more mental health therapists in our schools, mental health counselors, and medical people, dentists. The focus is about turning our schools into community centers, and they're selling it to the people, or they will be selling it to you if you haven't heard about it yet, as a convenience for the people, so that you don't have to take time off of work to take your child to the doctor. I get messages day after day by parents who find out that their children have been talking to the school counselor without their knowledge, and they're being confused about their gender. They're being told things that just aren't so. When parents question what is happening, they are gaslit, and they are told it's not being taught, or worse, they are told that the parents are the problem. Enough is enough. Utah Code says that parents are the primary decision makers in their children's education, and the state is to be secondary and responsive to the parents. Instead, parents are being marginalized, dismissed, and lied to. This is not okay. They want us to conform. They want us to tolerate. But tolerance is not conformity to the world's views and practices. We must not sacrifice or surrender our children in order to get along with people or appease activists. We must never blindly turn our children over to the so-called experts, no matter how competent they may seem. We cannot forsake the rising generation on social standing, or even for harmony. We can be kind, amen, but we cannot capitulate. We cannot forsake the rising generation in their time of need. We must do all in our power to protect and preserve them. If the school will not take a stand to stop this nonsense, then parents have only one option left, and that is to pull their kids from these systems that will otherwise destroy and make these kids forever serfs of the state. It is time to stand up and to speak up for truth. We need elected officials who care more about defending truth and preserving liberty than they do about appeasing activists. We need officials that care more about doing what's right than about being politically correct. We need officials that see potential in every child and will help them reach for the stars instead of reaching for excuses. We need officials that will protect our kids from being bullied and used as political pawns in a radical agenda. We need officials that will value parental feedback and will be responsive to their concerns, that will stop data mining our children and stop the nefarious and divisive ideologies from getting into our schools. We need officials that will stop ceding control of our local education to the federal government, to unelected and unaccountable nonprofits, third-party vendors, advisory committees, associations, and bureaucrats. Parents are the drivers in their child's education. Please help me to help our children. Thank you very much.
Natalie Cline. Good question. Okay, thanks, Natalie. Appreciate that. Now that I have my composure back together, I just want to introduce my good friend, who I do know personally, Kim Del Grosso. I love her. I just have to say, if there was ever the perfect fit for someone to be in charge of all the children in Utah, it would be Kim Del Grosso. I don't know if you know this about her. Yeah, clap. She deserves it. She literally has devoted her life to children and teaching them to explore the arts and to become world famous dancers and singers and performers in every way. And you don't know this about me, but I grew up a singer.
Oh, I can tell by your voice.
So I really love it. That was my husband. Doesn't count. He can't tell me to sing. But it's near and dear to my heart because that was my life growing up, and I went to school on a vocal performance scholarship. Like, it means a lot to me, and I'm so grateful for you doing this for children. That gave me so much confidence growing up, and it really needs to be back in the schools. And you need to be on the school board, and we need to get her there. We need to get her there on the state school board. So Kim has 8 kids, and I have the pleasure of knowing one of them, her daughter Ashley. You might have known she was on Dancing with the Stars. That's how good of a teacher Kim is. And Ashley's in my ward with her husband and their kids, and she's got 8 kids. And how many grandkids do you have?
26.
26. So I'm so grateful she's here, and man, I can't wait to get you in there.
Thank you.
You deserve it.
Right.
Wow. I've never met Natalie personally, but one of the reasons that I am running for state school board is because someone doesn't have her back on that board. And I want you to know, Miss Natalie, you are going to be lifted up and you are going to be supported. I am not endorsed by anybody except for 3 of my grandchildren who drew on this rock, and they have Naomi, Eliana, Violet, and Lydia vote for Kim. So I keep this rock with me because it will be very hard to break, and it keeps me focused. Thank you, Annie. You know, there's angels on the earth, and she's one of them. Congratulations on your win. I'm very proud of you. I look into your faces and I see close friends. I have some friends here that are dear to my heart. I have taught thousands of children, and everywhere I go, someone will come up to me and say, "Do you remember teaching me?" And I'm not lying, I just shake my head because I'll remember like in my dreams. And I am so honored to teach the children of Utah. All right, so is a young gentleman here who spoke about the founders, is he still here or did he leave? Where is he? I think he might have left. I wanted to compliment him. I have a fascination with our founders, and my children couldn't find me sometimes. They'd go to Barnes & Noble, and I'm sitting in the corner in the history section, just reading everything I can find on it. The Star Spangled Banner, stand up, beautiful. Can we give her another hand on that? So this is your next generation, and I don't know if you see the glow, but she's glowing. And Izzy, I will vote for you, Izzy. Anything you run for, girl, you know I will be there for you, okay? Because you are full of love and life. Thank you. Thank you. Like she said, I have 8 children. And I'm going to tell you a quick story. Some of you know this story. My oldest son, when he was 9 years old, was hit by a drunk driver. And he didn't wake up for 3 months. And when he woke up, he was brain injured. But when he woke up for 1 year, he saw through the veil. Now I'm going to tell you what that's like, okay? I'm going to tell you what it's like when you're having a prayer and he asks you if you saw them, writing it down. I'm going to tell you what it's like when you go to a funeral and he points to the person he never knew and said, there she is holding a baby. And he didn't know that she'd lost a baby. For 1 year, this young man told me that people were recording what I say. And I'm going to tell you right now, people are recording what we're saying right now. And they are counting on us to do the right things with our children. I do have 26 grandchildren, and they all go to Renaissance Charter School as of this year, except for the ones that are old and got married. I'll be a great-grandmother soon. And I only have 9 girls, and the rest are boys. And I worry about their future. Am I going to sacrifice my grandsons to a senseless war? Am I going to sacrifice my grandchildren to a country that has been taken over? The answer is no. When I decided to, when my son Forrest, our special needs son, passed away on June 1st suddenly, I came home and he had exited out of that body, and I was like, good thoughts. He needed to leave that body, and he is amazing. But that was the day that I decided to run. That was the day that I knew that if any skill set that I have can be there to support the Natalie Clines, that I was going to do it. And my journey has been insane, you guys. I'm not kidding you. I have read and studied. I get up at 4 in the morning to read about critical race theory. I have read these gender identity pamphlets that are going out. I have gotten on the internet. I have looked at the kindergarten books that are explaining things that they shouldn't be. I have actually had moments of terror. And then I've understood that fear is not a good thing. But when I tell you that we must absolutely band together, she just explained everything that's going on with our children. And my job is to get into that school board and to help fight that. Now I want you to know, we are kind of on a roll. And Natalie will need to tell me how this is working. 2 weeks ago, the incumbent was beat. And who was the person that beat them? I can't remember. Yeah, right. Oh, Aaron, I just love you, Aaron. You guys, if you don't know Aaron, he is my Harry Potter wizard. Please give him a hand. No one's like Aaron. He doesn't give it. And then Lena, I always say names wrong. Lena, see? Okay, it's the vowels. She got the endorsement on Saturday. Can we give her a big hand? And she is a rock star. I love her debate. You're not, girl, you are good. And then Christina, she just slaughtered the incumbent. I'm being rude, I know. Okay, I'll be better. She beat her really well. Okay, so that's 2 down. So we're just kind of taking them off as we can. And we are going to take the majority of that. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to run for. I've decided to go interview teachers. My brother, Victor Williamson, he hi. My brother, Victor Williamson, he won the Milken Award for the best teacher in the whole United States. And you may know him as the person who started the Christy McCullough Space Center. So that's my brother. I know. Who would have known, right? We're so different. He's 11 months younger than I am, and I have to tell you, growing up with him was a wild ride. He is amazing. He created the Space Center, and that's all we did. All of my daughters teach. Every one of my daughters teach. I'm a teacher. I just got done teaching 2 classes of the most beautiful children you've ever seen. And I will not quit teaching, because if I can't be in their presence, I don't have a very good day. And I really suggest that people that aren't around children, in not a creepy way, but whatever, make sure that you're aware of them watching you. All right? Make sure that they are counting on you. And I always like to say that one of my daughters has an old soul, and that's what's happening. We're having old souls being sent to us. It is an honor to be in the presence of these children. Now, when I look out here and I see parents, I mean, we're all parents, aren't we? We're all teachers. We're all grandparents. We're all students, right? So we wear these different hats. I speak to teachers, and they are so burned out that they don't even know what to do. They have so much on their plates. I feel for them. We are losing our very best teachers in droves. They will not teach the things that they're being asked to teach. That's not what they signed up for, but they're being told that they need to teach and conduct social emotional learning sessions. I cannot stand that people are being asked to pronounce their pronouns. I have never heard anything more stupid in my life. I'm sorry, let me just be blunt about it, okay? Number one, why do you label anybody, let alone children? What is going on? Like within 15 seconds, people seem to need to tell you what the label of this child is, what their problems are, and why they're acting a certain way. And guess what? They're children. And when you put that stuff in their heads, it doesn't come out it doesn't come out, and it starts messing with them. I'm very worried about how drugged up our children are. I'll be teaching children, and then the mother will come up to me and say, you know, we're going to start on another drug here. And I'm just looking at her like, what are you thinking? When we grew up, you guys, my mother grew up in Montana, and she's still alive, didn't have electricity, didn't have plumbing, and went to a one-room schoolhouse in a blizzard. Like it's not a foul. She really did. She's really crazy, lovely. I grew up in South Dakota, the only state that wasn't shut down. All right? And I grew up in a family of 8 children with a father that was so poor that we ate beans. And I had the best childhood of anyone I know because my brother Victor and I created and we played and we didn't get taken away from our parents and our families so that we could be in all-day kindergarten or something. I know how important the job is for parents, and I know how important our school systems are. I am for school choice. Like I said, I have a special interest child. I've had children in American Heritage. I've had children in public schools, and I really do believe that the parents have the right. They know their child. I mean, ladies, man, I feel so sorry that you don't carry children. I'm so glad that they haven't, they're trying to fix that, right? But whatever. But when you carry a child, you know that child. And you have combined yourself in a miracle. And you are that parent, and you have every right to know what's going on. I lost my mind when I saw that parents were being called terrorists. I literally lost my mind. I was in bed. I remember that I lost it. I could not believe what I was seeing. And because I'm running for office, I had to erase some things that I had posted. Whatever. Because I was so angry. And I would put things on there like, no, they can't do this. They cannot do this. And then people would attack me. And they would just be like slamming me. Because in my business, I have a lot of very liberal friends, and I'm converting them. I'm trying very hard to convert them. When my daughter Ashley was put on Dancing with the Stars, the show had just started. 26 million people watched it. All of a sudden, it just shot her up into this weird place where people were jumping out of trees to talk to us. I didn't even know where to put her, but I had her live right by a synagogue in Hollywood. And so she was surrounded by people that believed in families. She only danced 4 seasons, and just for your information, she had control of her dresses, and she didn't have to dance on Sundays. And until that changed, we changed that contract. I'm sickened by the identity gender stuff that's going on. I work in a business where never in my entire life have I ever had a student come into me, and I know that I have mothers here right now, where I needed to know what their gender choice was, that I needed to know any of these things about this child. And you guys, I have boys, all right? And sometimes those boys are, when they come to me, I need them to dance like boys. They need to, and there wasn't this crossover. I am very, very, very anti-trans in the girls' sports. I will fight forever. I have athletes in that. Again, you guys, where's our common sense? Where is our common sense? I went up there when they overrode the veto. I sat up there so that I could see that happen. I am terrified by the things that are happening with our youth, and I'm really worried about the school board because I don't feel like they're on the same page. I think there might be 3 of them, and then we have like 2 more, and there's 15. So sometimes people call me the 8th vote. Oh, she's the 8th vote. Well, I will be the 8th vote. And I'm telling you right now, nobody is going to bully me on that school board. I am going to put the pictures of children in front of me, and I am going to remember why I'm there. And I am going to know what is going on. I'm not going to let a bunch of administrative people come in and tell me how to vote when they've just been bought off by special interests. There is no way that that's going to happen to me. Never. And I just wish I could take you on my journey. I just wish you could. I know the fight, and I know what's ahead of me, and I know what I need to do. I would like my husband to stand up. He is the hottest guy I know. I dreamt about this beautiful man walking over a green hill for like a month, right? And I went to this party, I went to a picnic, and this man walked over a green hill, and it was him. And my friends were like, what is wrong with you? I thought I had just seen a ghost. He has 2 Purple Hearts. He is a veteran. Our family never misses putting the flag out. I have a son-in-law who is in special forces. I can never know where he is. I get told off by asking. I can't even put a flag out that we even know where he is. I don't want to go through I didn't want to talk about some of the issues with some of the kids around because some of it is too graphic for even me, but the graphicness is going to stop. I lived in Colorado years ago, and I was the president of Birthright, and I counseled young women that found themselves pregnant, and I did that for years. I also went into the schools, and I read what was being taught to our children in Colorado, and it was called humanism. Now it's called critical race theory. In those days, they just changed the word. It is Marxist and it's communist. And I cannot tell you how hard I fought, but in those days, they didn't want to kill me for it. They were nice to me, and they just took the books out. Not now. I will be there. I want to thank you for this opportunity. I want you to know that I will do everything I can, but I need your vote. I need your vote. I need to get in there, and if you just get me in there, I'll work my hardest. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie and Kim. Lana, would you like to stand up and just give us 60 seconds? We're running a little bit behind schedule, but to put a name and a face together, tell us just a little bit about you and then we'll move on.
Good evening. I'm so honored and thrilled to be here tonight. Thank you, first of all, so much for your support on Saturday. I was overwhelmed and shocked and extremely thrilled by the support I received. My name is Lana Nelson. I'm running for school district number 4. That's the cities of Cedar Hills, Highland, and Alpine, and a part of American Fork. And I represent you, the parents. I have been to every debate, so many different candidate meetings, and I've been listening to you, the parents, and I've learned from your concerns, and I appreciate your candidness with me and sharing your experiences. And I represent you, the parents, and I am so excited to be endorsed by the Utah Republican Party. I represent that platform. I believe in it. I had one parent comment to me that she loved the fact that on Saturday, when I had a chance to share some thoughts, that I quoted the Republican platform. And my comment to her is, that is me. I believe in it. I run for it. I represent it. And I also need your vote. And I am a fighter. I have 3 kids, and they're young, and they deserve the best future that they can ever have. And that will only happen if we make change happen. The trajectory that we're on right now, currently in the school system, is not a good one. The only way to change that trajectory is to change who is in there right now. And that needs to happen, and that will happen with you. Thank you so much.
follow 3 strong women like that. That's his problem. Cole, come on, stand up here. Why don't you talk to him?
Yeah, Cole.
Hey guys. Cole Kelly. I'm running for Alpine Board of Education in District 7, which is the Mountain View cluster. So it's going to be West Orem and Vineyard. And like Lana, I also got the Utah County Republican Party endorsement, and so I'm excited about that. I know Kim Del Grosso very well. I had a daughter that danced with her program and is currently a Cougarette, and very proud of that. So we won 2 national titles this weekend, right? So just want to, I tell people I'm a school teacher, been working in Alpine School District for 25 years. I'm a school teacher that's worked for 25 years fighting against my teachers union for 25 years.
Yeah.
And it's coming up this way has been very hard, so I'm coming this way now. And we're gonna create some things that I think will be positive for our students. And a lot of people say, well, you're teacher focused, but you gotta understand, if you're teacher focused, you're student focused. Okay? And I'm a teacher who is student centered. And I want to be a board member who is teacher, parent, and student focused. Yeah. So thank you for your vote on Saturday, and look forward to earning your vote in the primary. Thank you.
Okay, we have one more. Charles Wood. Does Charles want to stand up for District 2?
So I'm Charles Wood. I am running in District 2. That is about half of Lehigh and most of Saratoga Springs. And my oldest son was sitting in his first day of school, went to his chemistry class, and I think most of you saw the video at Lehigh High School, right?
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then they're trying to tell me that this stuff isn't happening in our schools.
One person.
And yeah, it's just her, right?
Yeah.
Just her. And I have a major problem with that. I am all about the parents. So the video, essentially, she told the kids to go get vaccinated without telling their parents. The most egregious thing was telling them that their parents were idiots, that they were wrong about everything, and not to listen to them. There was a political tirade and an LGBTQ tirade as part of that.
She told them they could change genders.
She told them that they could change genders.
And she got fired.
Well,
Only because she got caught.
Only because she got caught. And the issue is that you look on Facebook when the video came out, and these parents are saying, well, this has been happening for years. Well, where's the school board? How do we let this happen in our schools? And then to try and separate the kids from their parents. I mean, the parents should be in the driver's seat. And then I'm talking to parents, and it's like, well, I tried to get a hold of this part of the curriculum. And they made me jump through all these hoops. Anyway, I'm probably over my time, but I would really like your support. If you live in that area, my website is chuck.school, and I'll be around if you want to talk to me.
Okay, thank you. Just so that you know, when we wrap up this last speaker, we actually do have a Q&A session. We're going to bring up a panel, and all these people can come up. Even if you're just visiting, you weren't part of the formal program, we'd invite you to come up and go ahead and field questions from the parents and the citizens of the community here. So with that, we'll go ahead and turn the time over to David Crandall, who's going to say something and introduce Jason.
Hey guys, most of you don't know me, that's just fine, unless you're on Facebook, and then you know me as an internet troll. I attended one of Deidre Henderson's town halls, and I got there early, and she was going to talk about election integrity, and I'm like, oh my goodness. And I got there early, and she walks up to me, and she's like, hi, what's your name? I'm like, David Crandall, and she's like, the one from Facebook. I'm like, yep. She's like, wow, you're a lot less scary in person. I'm like, I'm sorry, I tried to be. So that's who I am. So guys, I started being really active on Facebook. Arguably, some people said I was trolling. I was trying to call out balls and strikes as I saw them, and I tried to call out some very bad things that I saw happening. I started doing this when the lockdowns happened. I started trying to call out the candidates I liked, call out the things that people weren't saying. There was some myopia, some things that had happened in recent history before 2020 that needed to be called out, and no one was saying it. But it turned into a very dark time. COVID, we saw our constitutional rights completely shut down. We saw that people couldn't go to church. One of those most fundamental things. This wasn't some far off blue state. This wasn't communist China. This was happening right here in Utah. This was being done by the same people that come to the meetings and look you straight in the eye and talk about the founding fathers and do all these different things. These exact same people were doing it. We saw the CRT, the LGBT things being taught in children's schools. We saw young minds being captured and manipulated in ways that only certain sources could do. Because if you saw that stuff on MTV, if you saw that stuff coming from friends, children know to sort of filter out certain sources, but when it's coming from trusted sources like teachers and things, where they're teaching them they need to chemically castrate themselves, they need to maim themselves, and ruin themselves from ever having a family again. We saw things like universal vote by mail. And very specifically, if you don't think local elections matter, they do. In Utah County, we were held up as the standard nationwide, telling everyone else that universal vote by mail was safe and that it was secure. That these things didn't matter. That it was okay. We had signature verification. We had all these different things, all these safeguards. So I'm notorious for grilling some of those people on that. Aaron's giving me a look right now like, I know. And then we also saw silencing of political dissent. We saw people that were told to shut up, sit down, if you speak up. If you show up to this school board meeting, you're a terrorist. We're going to trespass you. If you show up on school property, you will go to jail. You will get arrested. That happened. It's happening now. It's very dangerous. It's happening in the Alpine School District. But the question is, where were our elected officials while this was going on? Where was our congressman? I live here in CD3. Well, I can tell you where John Curtis was. He was preaching the virtues of an overtly Malthusian system of climate change, aka eco-fascism. And if you doubt that it's fascist, our representative, John Curtis, went to COP26. If you guys aren't familiar with what that is a little meeting up in Scotland where all the special people didn't have to obey the COVID rules. And they sit there and they talked about, Al Gore got up and talked about massive surveillance, to talk about the carbon individuals are emitting and catch these carbon emitters. Never mind their private jets and everything else they flew out there. They talked about mobilizing, Prince Charles talked about mobilizing the military to enforce these new carbon mandates because we're in an existential threat. If we don't do something about it, it's bad. Yesterday marked a very dark anniversary, and I don't think people understood how dark it was. There was geofencing set up around our state. So if you left state lines, you crossed state lines, it started pinging you. That data was collected. That data was harvested. Now, they stopped it, not because it violated our constitutional rights, not because it was an eerie big brother, something that you would expect out of East Germany during the 1970s. No, they stopped it because people that lived close to the border kept pinging them all the time because it didn't work. Not because it was violating our constitutional rights. So we saw, if you want to see something interesting, look at Test Utah. They have brought in these junk COVID tests, just basically junk from China. They cooked the test results. The co-diagnostics company's stock skyrocketed 33,000%. That's fine, we'll look at it, but that stock went up 33,000%, and other states had to shut it down, and Spencer Cox was pushing that. We saw that stock rise. There's an investigation right now by the SEC. And what did our county auditor do? He looked past it, he didn't see it. At the time when COVID was deadly, it did kill people. Those tests were out there, and the most vulnerable people were exposed to it, COVID, unnecessarily. Yeah, let's get Jason on. So just really quick, there's some lights here, some lights in this room. So when they tried to shut down our county commission, Bill Lee, he fought back. He fought back against the COVID things. Thank you, Commissioner Lee. When they tried to silence us, there was Renee. Renee set up a county meeting and tried to get those things going. When they tried pushing on CRT, we had Natalie Cline. We see great volunteers pushing great people. And then there was this guy I told was running for Congress against John Curtis. And I'm like, well, who is this guy? And he's like, his name is Jason Preston. And who is Jason Preston? Well, there's a video up here. We're going to cue that up. And Jason's been taking on all of this. So Jason, thank you so much.
Where do we turn when our leaders forget what matters most? Are you tired of hollow promises from our so-called representatives? How do we know what is true? Who can we trust? There's a great reawakening happening. I believe it's the light of liberty being rekindled. We know that no one politician can save us, but together, we the people can save our country. 2022 will be the year liberty reignites and shines a light on the darkness of the corrupted political system. I'm Jason Preston, a father, husband, entrepreneur, and proud Utahn. I'm running for Congress because the leaders of our country have betrayed and abandoned the Constitution. I'm running for Congress to be a watchman on the tower, to awaken and remind the people that we still hold the power, and that if we act now, we can and will save the Constitution. I'm running for Congress to inspire a new generation to stand with me and to clean house. I am not a politician, and my campaign, it's a movement. It's not about me, it's about we, the people. As a constitutional conservative, I will fight the systems that create generational poverty. I will fight for our small business owners and defend the free market. And I will fight for our families to protect their God-given rights. Every vote and decision I make will be based on principle, not what's politically correct. I'll take the oath of office just as that, an oath. I believe in the power of the individual. I know that each of us has a role to play in this great battle to defend the Constitution. We can no longer be complacent. The enemy is no longer at our doorstep, but has breached our homes, and our children's very lives and future hang in the balance. The time to stand up is now. In Utah, we need leadership. Our state is not immune to the overreach, bureaucracy, and financial devastation plaguing other states. We must return to our limited government roots. Together, we can push back against the encroachment of the elites, systems, and beliefs that are putting our families at risk. To the citizens of Utah, this is our time. We must answer the call. I believe our great state is positioned to lead out on a national level. It is our responsibility to restore God as the foundation of this country. We, the people, must unite and put those in office who do not seek power, but instead who will pull power down. We must hold our politicians accountable. 2022 will be the year we, the people, you and I, step into our purposes and become the men and women history remembers forever. Truly, we were sent for such a time as this. We, the people. My name is Jason Preston. I approve this message. It's time to stand together.
Thank you all. First, a few thank yous for everyone that came out, for Paul for opening up the space for us. You know, this is incredible. Annie and Pike, Greg for working with us to make this happen. We're going to keep doing this. We're going to keep filling rooms. We're going to keep filling the streets. We're going to come together and we're going to unify over the shared purpose of getting the right people in office and sharing that message and putting God back where he belongs. A few quick things before we get to Jason. We do have an event in Salt Lake tomorrow that we're going to be doing at Awaken Church. We're hoping to fill them as well with a similar group. We'll have Christina Bogus with us as well. We'll hold all the questions for Jason until the end. This could become quite a runaway train otherwise, so we'll have an open panel discussion at the end. But one last thing, so Lana brought up fighters, and it's been an interesting concept because I've noticed the incumbent has started using that in his speech. Must be a good polling tag word or something right now. Because when people ask me what's different about Jason than some of the other candidates, number one, he's not a politician, so that's kind of nice and refreshing. But then personality-wise, I think you have that warrior fighter spirit that you're looking for in sending someone to Washington that's going to, like he said, pull power down. So I'll let Jason show you his fight if you haven't seen it already. So your next Congressman, Jason Preston.
All right. What an honor. I think we have some incredible people here, and not just those running, but the people who are here. The reason I'm running is I'm very concerned about this country. I feel like our country is in grave danger. I don't think it's a stretch to see what's. In fact, Ronald Reagan said freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. I think we are that generation. And I think we're going to be the generation that stands up and says enough is enough. And we're going to be the generation that brings this country back to its God-given roots. So I wanted to kind of make today a little different. Usually I do my presentation where I talk about the Constitution and talk about the principles of liberty. And I'm going to get into that a little bit, but I want you to know who I am. I feel like you deserve to know that. I'm just a regular guy. I'm not a politician, never wanted to be a politician. In fact, I was born in Orem, right here in Orem, Utah. And Greg Sorensen, actually while we were talking, stand up, Greg. He ended up doing my hair. You can thank him for my haircut and beard. And we were talking, he's like, we started talking about people we knew, and we all of a sudden realized we grew up in the same street. And actually come up here, Greg. I want Greg to tell you about where we come from, because to me, that's what we're fighting for. What we're fighting for, and you see me, we don't have our We the People shirts, but you hear me talk about We the People. What that means is, what we're fighting for is we're fighting for the individual. We're fighting for what this country was founded upon. And one of the main principles this country was founded upon was the divine worth of the individual. That, a couple of guys from a wild little neighborhood in 4th North in Orem could rise to any level, that there's divinity within all of us. So I'm going to let Greg just tell you a little about growing up on 4th North.
Hello, I'm Greg Sorensen. I live here in Pleasant Grove. Who's all from Pleasant Grove? Yeah. Great. I love it. It's way better than 4th North. And I'm running for city council next round, so please, let me get your vote. But I was a military brat. I grew up all over the world. My dad was in the Army. I grew up in California, Germany, Texas. I grew up in some scary areas, right? But nothing compares to 4th North and Orem. And if you've never been there, let's go. So you have your hands full. But it's a great place. A lot of my friends are either in prison, some have been shot, some are dead, overdose. It's a rough area, So when I was talking with Jason, when I was giving him a fade, it looks good, right? He was telling me, he grew up in 4th North, and I couldn't believe it because, it's, his wife said fighters, right? You have to be a fighter to get out of that area. It's a rough area. You're right above the trailer park. I'm not saying anything about trailer parks, but if you've been into a trailer park, it's a great area, but you have to be a fighter. And if you've never heard Jason, you're in for a treat because he's a great guy. Thank you.
Thank
you. So we're all shaped by our past. And I have a very interesting past. So I grew up there on 4th North until I was 12. When I was 12, my parents got divorced. It was a very traumatic divorce. My mom ran away from my dad and packed up all 8, 9 kids she was pregnant in this back of the station wagon. We took off for 2 years and basically we're in hiding from my dad. Not that my dad was a bad person, but it was just one of those childhoods. But that shapes you. We're shaped by our past. And I learned a lot from my past. I learned a lot from moving around, living in place to place. I always came back. My dad stayed in Utah. When I was 14, we started coming back to Utah and back and forth. My mom ended up living in Hawaii. Not like glamorous, but on welfare. So it was neat to learn to live as a minority and see my mom struggle with the welfare system. She hated the welfare program, and she shaped a lot of my views on politics. She felt like every time she tried to get off welfare, the state would pull the rug out from under her, and it was a system that she felt entrapped her. And so that shaped me. It shaped my thoughts of the state and of the welfare state. My siblings, we all struggled as youth. All my brothers and sisters did. We got in a lot of trouble being in a broken family. And when I was 19, I kind of pulled myself together, found God, ended up going out on a mission, came back, went to BYU, got married, and tried to really just live the best I could. And eventually in 2005, I found this book that changed my life forever. An Enemy Hath Done This. Anybody familiar with that book? Yeah. Okay, Ezra Taft Benson? Yeah. It shaped me. It shaped the way I thought about politics and government. I loved history. I went to BYU, loved history, wanted to be a teacher. I ended up graduating and realized I didn't want to be a teacher. It was when they were doing No Child Left Behind. And going through BYU there, I was like, hell no, I'm not going to teach. In fact, we actually decided to homeschool our kids after that and not get into the school system, end up being an entrepreneur. But when I read this book, I realized there's a lot of things that I thought about history that have been taught that weren't quite right. And a lot of things I thought about government that weren't quite what I thought they were. I guess you could say I was red-pilled at that age. I ended up, in 2000, I voted for Trump. I love Trump. I think it was the best thing since sliced bread. It was all about his foreign wars. And then I read this book and realized that he was a pretty corrupt guy. Bush. What did I say? Trump. Oh. Thank you, baby. Bush. Trump didn't do foreign wars. Anyway, so yeah, he was so, and then I realized, you know what? I was all excited about freedom, and I found this great guy named Ron Paul. Any Ron Paul fans here? I love this guy. And this was before the 2008 elections. I thought, let's get this guy to Utah. I just sold the tour of Utah, so I had connections with the Millers and Zions Bank and all the News Trib and the Deseret News, and I had all these connections. And I thought, we're going to bring him out here. We're going to raise him a ton of money. Well, I brought him out to Utah, and everyone thought, are you crazy? Like, we don't want to support this guy. And I saw the media kind of throw him under the bus, and I got really just discouraged because I realized here we have a great representative running for president that really understands the principles of government. And the problem is we don't want him as the people. And so I got kind of discouraged. Well, the next thing that really shaped me was we started a marketing company and ended up working with Henry Schein. They're a big Fortune 300 company. We were their exclusive marketing arm. That kind of took me all over the country, and I kind of put politics aside for a little while. I moved to Florida, and when I was in Florida, I ended up getting divorced. I went through a very, very rough time in my life, which is where I met my beautiful wife, who was also having a very rough time in her life. And the two of us found a lot of trouble. And it was during that time, I was trying to start another business and I was just a train wreck. And I realized I couldn't, start a business in that mindset, just being in such a disaster in my life. And a company approached me called National Write Your Congressman. And I'm actually going to show you who they are here in a second. But what they are is they're a legislative research firm. So they research all the bills that goes on in Congress. And what we did is we got people involved in the legislative process. So I had a really cool experience when I took that job, because I was in a very dark place in my life. And when that opportunity came to me, I felt a very strong feeling inside. It says, Jason, take this job. It'll bring you back to me. And so it was actually the spirit of the principles of liberty that and did end up bringing me back to God. It was quite a journey. But over the course of the years, I got very involved in Congress and in watching what's going on. And in fact, I'll show you here. It's kind of fun. I just pulled this up today and thought, that's kind of cool. Let's see if I can get this to. Can we get this to play here? There we go. So this is a list right here of all the letters sent to Congress on all the different bills. So you've got this gives the date and the bill. Utah election reform. So this is pretty recent, and you can click on any one of these and see details and see who the letter was sent to and what I said. And but what we did is we've got 6 pages going all the way back to there we go, 5 years ago. U.S. Cuba policy, English is official. Anyways, we had just a lot of Obama stuff there, but so that's what we really got involved doing. Is I just learned to believe in the power that we the people have when we get in the fight. And over that 5-year period, I talked to over 5,000 different business owners. I heard about their concerns, heard about their frustrations, and I really began to believe in the power of constituent pressure. So here's an example, because a lot of people don't realize how powerful we are. You guys all heard of the EPA, right? Yeah. Well, back when Obama was in office, they wanted to pass a law that would give them the ability to walk into any business, assess a fine, and whether you agreed with it or not, they'd say, okay, here's the fine, and it's due this day. And if you didn't pay it in time, they wanted to have the power to go right to your bank account and just take those funds without any due process. In other words, you're guilty if they say you're guilty. How do you feel about the EPA having that kind of power? No. So here's my question for you. Do you know how the regulatory agencies get regulations passed? And the reason this is important is because if we put a pile right here of laws that get passed by Congress in a year, from the table, it probably maybe a pile this high. It might be a little bigger because now they're passing these 2,000-page bills, which is ridiculous. But how much regulation gets passed by unelected bureaucrats versus legislators? We could go from the floor to the ceiling probably a couple times. Now, how do these, especially in a day like today when we talk about COVID and all these, Dr. Fauci and everyone passing regulations, how does that process happen? All they have to do, the regulatory agencies, they write up the regulation, they put it in the Federal Register, and it just needs to sit there for 30 days. And if in that 30-day period enough of we the people don't respond, it automatically becomes law.
Because you don't know about it.
Okay. Well, I want to tell you about this bill specifically. So they put this bill on the Federal Register, actually it was July 2nd. In the first 14 days that sat in the Federal Register, just take a wild guess, how many people in the entire United States of America, we have 330 plus million people in this country, how many people do you think said, hey, that's a bad idea?
Zero. Yeah. Three.
You guys are very pessimistic. But you're right. 4 people in the entire United States of America. And here's the question, why did nobody speak up? And this is why Benjamin Franklin said an informed and freedom-loving people can never be enslaved. It's not enough that we love freedom. We have to know what's going on. And they bank on us being ignorant. Anyone ever try to dig into the Federal Register? First off, it's no wonder we're not taught this, because they don't want us to be taught it. And then they write it in this legal, the way they write it, they make it very difficult to get through because they do not want us engaged. Well, the organization I work for, on the 16th, after that sat in the Federal Register 14 days, we sent out an alert to all the business owners, all the people that we work with. And here's what was amazing, and this is something that has shaped the way I think. In one day, we had so many people respond to that got shut down. The EPA took it off the Federal Register, and it got stopped. Now here's what blows my mind. Do you have any idea how many people it would take to stop a powerful agency like the EPA? By the way, she knows. That's how I met Linda. She works for one of the businesses I worked with. 800 people.
Wow.
Tell me your voice doesn't make a difference. And that is the big dirty secret. They want us sitting on the sidelines. Because what difference does it make if we're not engaged because someone's got a gun to our head, and like they have in Venezuela, telling us we don't have a choice to be involved, or we sit back at home just thinking, what difference does it make? They win either way. So I've become a big belief in the power of we the people, the power that we have when we stand up and when we fight. The last little while, things have been rough in this country. We've seen what's gone on with the mandates. We've seen what's going on with our schools. We've seen what's going on with election integrity. It's been a time to... Here's the thing. We're running, I'm running for office, but here's the thing. Do we need to be a politician to stand up for freedom?
No.
We don't. How many of you guys have showed up at the Capitol this year? Look around. Just keep those hands up. That is where freedom comes from. Okay, well, I don't need to run to office to stand up on election integrity, to stand up for the mandates, to stand up on the CRT issues. We have the power to stand up. And the thing that we don't realize is how powerful our voices are when we get engaged. One of the reasons I decided to run for office after doing this last few years is, first off, well, how are we doing for time, baby? Okay. Well, I'll tell you, I'll go back to my journey here. Eventually, we God had enough of Alexi and I getting ourselves in trouble in Florida.
Maybe you don't have enough time.
Okay, I'm not enough time. So he chased us to Utah, where and I thought we hit rock bottom in Florida, but no, I hit rock bottom in Utah. But one of the things that shaped me and shapes the way I think about government actually is Jordan Peterson. He was actually very key in me turning my life around. Any Jordan Peterson fans? Okay. One of the things I like about Jordan Peterson is that applies to where we are today is he says, look, if you see problems in the world and you see things going on, where does he say to start? Start with yourself. Put your own life in order. And I think that's the same thing. I think if we see problems in this country, it starts with us. We're not powerless. My message over the last 6 months has been encouraging people to stand up and run for office, get in the fight, get involved. We have the power to take this country back.
Yeah.
It's not if the Constitution is going to be saved, it's not going to be saved by politicians. It's going to be saved by we the people. And we the people have power to do that. How many of you are first-year delegates? Raise your hands. Give them a round of applause. I believe there is a great reawakening happening. I believe people are waking up. We're seeing the corruption, and we're saying we're not going to allow this to happen to our children. And my biggest message is that we have to take this country back, and it starts by putting God back. When our founding fathers gave us this country, is based on a certain contract, but there was a hierarchy. There's an order of our rights. Where do our rights come from? God. He is the top of the food chain, so to say, the top of the power structure. What's underneath God? We the people, the individuals, right? And then what did we the people create? We created first what? The states, right? The 13 colonies. Then the 13 colonies, that's what we went to war over. Then when we got our independence, the 13 colonies got together and they created the federal government, right? The Constitution. Who has more power then? The individual or the states?
It should be the individual.
Okay.
It's not that way, but it should be.
Who has more power, the state or the federal government?
State.
Okay. Is that the form of government we have today? Have you noticed in the last 50 years there's been an effort to take God out of this country? Out of our schools? Out of our courtrooms? Why?
Well, because they want to, that makes them power. I mean, it flips it because then God is, he's gone, then they give us the rights.
Absolutely. If there's no God, where do your rights come from? If you lived in the Soviet Union, in Russia, China, in one of these dictator type countries, where did your rights come from? The state. Whether you believe in God or not, I think it's very wise that our founding fathers built a constitution and a government based on eternal principles, based on human nature, based on things that don't change, that our rights come from a higher source, whether you call it God or the universe, and that government is created by man. So let me ask you a question. When you think about, and everyone says, Jason, you talk so much about principles, why don't you talk about issues? Utah is Rhino Capital USA. Anyone see the article they wrote about Cox, Romney? Curtis, yeah, Tucker came out. Glenn Beck's come out. I mean, Utah is the national spot. The spotlight is on us. This should be the state that is leading the charge to defend the country. Not Florida, it should be Utah. Yeah. Tell me one state that has any business being fighting harder for the Constitution than Utah. Why are we Rhino Capital USA?
We don't get involved.
Status quo.
Because we have politicians, and this has been one of the things, been issues I've run for office. Because I've never wanted to be a politician. I've got a past. There's no business. I had no business being a politician. But you know what I found very interesting? As soon as we started running for office, we had campaign managers. And they'd come and say, all right, Jason, Alexia, we're going to do some research. We're going to find out what's important to the people in Vernal. And this is what we're going to talk about when we're in Vernal. Then we're going to study what Salt Lake wants to hear. We're going to talk about this in Salt Lake. Utah County, we're going to talk about family. And when we go out to Blanding, we're going to talk about the lands. And then what's been really amazing is last month now, we've been going out with these politicians to each of these different areas. When we're in Salt Lake County, it's all about climate change. When we go to Vernal, it's all about, we're leading the energy caucus. Okay, completely different messages. And the problem is we have politicians that they know how to stick their finger in the wind and hear which way the wind's blowing, and they know what to say to us.
I experienced that at county convention, that's for sure.
Yeah, all you have to do is follow these guys around. But here's the challenge. We have politicians, the issues are always changing, but principles of truth never change. Okay? So when we think about the proper role of government, one of the things I learned from Ezra Jack Benson is if the government gets its authority from you. So if you don't have the authority to do something, can you give that authority to your agent?
No.
So if I'm home and someone wants to break into my home, do I have the right to protect my property?
Yes.
Can I then delegate that to the sheriff to protect my property?
Yes.
Okay. I told you I grew up on welfare. If my mom is struggling to pay her food bills, would I have the right to walk into this room with the threat of a gun? Which when we put our government agent and we give them authority to do something, we give them the full force of the law, which is force. Government is force. Do I have the right as one individual to another individual to walk in here and say, hey, my mom's struggling with her food bills. I want each of you to pay $50.
No. It could be volunteer, but it can't be by force.
Okay, so how can the government do that?
We allow it.
See, this is the problem. We've come so far from what our founding fathers gave us as this country and the principles of liberty. You know, it was interesting because we hear them debate about health care when Obama was in office, and we'd have good people in there. The Republicans talk about it too. But how many have asked the question, wait a minute, do I have the right to come over to Natalie and force her, to pay Cole's health care bills in the first place? How do I even why don't our representatives bring that up? Because the problem is we don't realize the proper role of government. And people say, well, Jason, we've come so far. And yes, that's the problem through appeasement. This is something that Ronald Reagan talked about, is the problem with appeasement. We keep this is where our country started, we've appeased, and now we're about to appease ourselves right off the cliff. We're closer in this country to total communism than we are to what our founding fathers gave us. So even though we're not going to go out tomorrow and abolish the welfare state, the fact of the matter is, I will get on the welfare state. The welfare state, by the way, has done a ton of damage. In before 1964, do you know 75% of black children had a father in the home? Do you know what percentage of black children have a father in the home now? 24%. What changed? The welfare state came and said, listen, Mom, the more kids you have, as long as there's not a father in the home, we're going to give you a check. Okay, when I was doing this work and I was talking to a CPA, when I was doing this legislative work, I had a CPA almost break down to tears. This was out in Florida. He said, Jason, it's the hardest thing. I have these mothers come to me and they say, I'm thinking about getting married. What should I do? And he says, Jason, I have to tell them financially it's not in their best interest to get married. We have policy destroying the family. What is the biggest indicator of people who end up in prison? Sexual predators, all the problems?
No father.
Fatherlessness. When I lived in Florida, we used to try to help these kids out of the hood. You try to pull a kid out of the hood where he never sees a man around except for when he comes around paying someone for sex or selling drugs. And he grows up in a neighborhood where that's all he sees. We have policies that are destroying this country from the inside out. And who is to blame for that?
Us.
Who voted for that? Because we had politicians that said, we need to take care of everybody. But we didn't have people that says, wait a minute, do we have the authority to do that? If we want to fix this country, the answer is this document, in 5,000 years, we had progressed from all the way up to what? A horse and plow. 5,000 years. Think about that. Then this document comes out and says, you know what? The individual matters and you have the seeds of divinity. It's no king that has the sovereignty and we are subjects. It is everybody, every individual, regardless of your color of your skin, regardless of your sexuality, every individual is royalty. Think about that. Now, in 200 years of living under that philosophy, you tell me you don't live better than any emperor could have ever imagined. These principles matter. And we are flushing them down the toilet. And one of the things Karl Marx, Stalin, Hitler, all these people knew is, if you give me the youth, I will control the nation. And we have these warrior moms, these mom bears standing up and fighting. Why does it matter? Because if we don't stand up now, this country is almost done. And it all starts with our youth. It starts with the media. It starts with our culture. There is no country that ever survived, no civilization, after losing control of their borders, losing control of their elections, losing control of their currency, and having a collapse in the moral fiber of the people. How are we doing? It is time to stand up. When we have a governor I've got two cute girls you saw them there, I'm in a hurry. When we have a governor that will allow men to walk into my daughter's locker rooms. When is enough enough? And I want to thank all the mama bears fact, if the mama bears who stood up or been involved lately, will you please raise your hand? Look at that. These mama bears have been fighting. And what has our government done? They've come out and it's called them terrorists. You know what I'm excited about? One of the things I realized, the difference in where I was when I was just out doing this and I still a mess of my life versus where I am now is I realized as a 35-year-old boy, I hadn't learned to be a man. And what I'm excited about is you see what these mama bears have done. You wait till the men start standing up. When the men start standing up and say, you've pushed us too far, and we get the men showing up at the Capitol, and we don't need to be in office. We don't need to be a politician to stand up for freedom. In fact, you're doing it now. You're running as delegates. I believe the Constitution will be saved. I'm going to wrap up here. I believe with every bit of my heart, this is a battle of light and dark. There is no greater battle. There is nothing more important than freedom. Nothing. You lose freedom, you lose your ability to worship, you lose everything. Nothing matters more than this. Not how much money we make, not how good we look. Nothing matters as much as this fight. And our children's futures are depending on us. I believe the Constitution is going to be saved. And I think if God put men and women of the caliber He put on this earth to lay the foundations of this country, and how many of you believe they were inspired and God put them for that purpose? If God put men and women on this earth for a purpose such as that, do you not think He would have sent some of His strongest children to stand up for this Constitution and this country and these principles when they hang by the very thread? Who's to say that's not you? In fact, I'm going to tell you, I believe that is you. We talked about identity. There's nothing more powerful than knowing who you are, who we were, and why we're here. And one of the neat things about running for office is I meet people who I believe are every bit the men and women our founding fathers were. This state matters. When you get into the corruption in Utah, I believe this is one of the most corrupt states in the country. But I will tell you what's been amazing as we've been running for office. We have some of the most incredible freedom fighters here who understand the principles of freedom. And I know many of them are right here in this room. My wife's Jewish. Her Jewish name is Esther. And one of the things we know about her and you is that who is to say that we were not sent for such a time as this? And I believe you were, and I believe I was. And I believe Bill, proud of you standing up here like a beast. No representative will stand up for election integrity. Not one except Phil Lyman. And we have Bill stand up today and hold a panel and let the people be heard. I'm very proud of him. That's a leader. Bill is running for again this year for commissioner. I hope he has all of our support because we need men who will stand up for what's right. And God bless the women to keep doing it too. God bless you. God bless America.
So, thank you, Bill. We shouldn't have you come up here and give your 60 seconds too. But you seem to have a bigger megaphone than many of these people do. But thank you for your service. We're going to try something new. Ryland's going to play, and the words are on your program. If you'll join me, I have no musical talent. I will be turning off the mic. I don't even know how to lead music, but I will wave my hand back and forth. Let us sing. Is that how you do it? Do you want to come up here and help me then? Let us sing America the Beautiful. It's got a rich, lovely, patriotic tone. We'd love to leave you with that. While we're doing that, how many of these candidates that are running for office would like to join the panel up here? Because the rest of us who are staying can ask whoever, whatever questions we would like. How many of you want to be on that panel? Will you raise your hand? There's 1, 2, 3. Bill, you're more than welcome to be up here. 4, 5, 6, 7. We need 7 chairs, Alexia. Yeah, so watch this beautiful lady up here to lead the music. Oh, Okay, we'll have the candidates come, take a seat, get your questions ready. This will be as rapid fire as we want. We're now here to serve answers instead of speeches. All questions are on the table, just we ask you for civility and being polite, respectful. And let's have some fun with this. We have one other announcement. Who's that good lady that just came up to me? Ju? All right, she's busy.
So let's go.
Okay, so we're going to try to push as much information out as possible. So we'd love to have you ask one question. And if you'd like to direct it at a particular individual, then please state who that is, or more than one, so you can compare notes. And then we'll give about a minute. We don't want too strict rules, but about a minute for the answer. If you're unsatisfied, we can push the limit on that just a little bit to make sure you get an answer to your question. Is that fair enough? Because sometimes some of these constraints don't serve as the default. Okay, so we're going to start. Raise your hand, and I'll walk around with a microphone, and I'm going to go from left to right here, so I don't burn my lungs. Okay, here you go.
Hello, I'm Don Langston. I'm the North Summit Regional Representative as well as a delegate for both state and county, and an alternate as well, so kind of going crazy. So I have a question. So will you endorse, this is for Jason, will you endorse rendering it easier to get registered Republican contact information, such as email and phone numbers? We can't get to our people. And also, will you endorse returning to the caucus system and doing Senate Bill 54?
So first of all, I'll address SB 54. I think SB 54 has been an absolute disaster. If it was SB 54 is what's I think one of the biggest things that's led to Utah being such a rhino capital, because I mean, what happens is it becomes all about the money. It becomes all about the money. It favors the establishment. It favors everything. It makes it very, very hard for a grassroots candidate to get through. So I think SB 54 is a massive problem. And as far as the other question with the Republican Party, we were at a meeting today with Bill, and one of the challenges we've talked about is having access to the voter rolls. The problem is people are concerned about election integrity, and we have a state that says, well, you know, we can't give, in order to see if everything was fair, you need to be able to see, okay, how many people voted, and have access to the voter rolls. And the problem is, because of privacy, they won't let us have that data, so there's no way you can have it makes it almost impossible to have to see if there's any funny business. It was a phenomenal meeting today, and I will tell you, it's important enough to me that even right now, when it's so important to be getting delegates involved because of convention coming up, I spent 2 hours a day at the election integrity meeting, because if we don't have fair elections, we do not have a country.
Hey, anybody on the panel want to give another 30 to 60 second answer to this lady's question before we move on to the next one? Anybody feel strongly about answering that one? Okay, thank you. And you had a question?
First of all, by the raise of hands, who's been running for a school board or anything that has to do with education? Okay, thank you. My question is what do you believe in if you're going to help try and get rid of Common Core in the schools, which is actually just as destructive as No Child Left Behind is, and it's very destructive with and getting it back to where teachers could be teachers and don't have to do exactly what the government wants them to do. That when you have students, you could actually say, this isn't working for my students, let me teach them this way, let me teach them this way, let me teach them this other way of math, let me teach them another way of this, to be able to reach all the different types of students and let teachers be teachers of them. Now, I want to know who will fight for get rid of Common Core, which is a destruction to education right now.
I'll address that one.
Okay, thank you. And also somebody else.
I told you, I'm a school teacher, been in the education system for 25 years, and I'm a capitalist who exists in a completely socialist system, and I've watched it get more and more socialist. Basically, what you have right now, this early out stuff that we teachers do, here's what we do. We get together and make sure we're all teaching the same thing at the same time. We're all doing it in the same way. And the art of teaching has been taken out of teaching. Okay? 25 years ago when I started teaching, it was an art. And we didn't all paint the same painting. Right now, we all paint the same painting. And if you have a different learning style, and you're in this system and your learning style doesn't line up with the style that they're perpetuating, you're gonna struggle. You know, I've got a son who he's rebuilt and resold 8 motorcycles. Okay, he learned how to rebuild motorcycle engines on the internet. Okay, YouTube, and he's flipped 8 motorcycles, and he struggles in school. Right? Is that kid intelligent? He's brilliant, okay? But because his learning style isn't lining up with the style that they're perpetuating in education, he struggles through school. You know?
Yes, they've taken out the 7 intelligences.
Absolutely.
Different ways how to
Absolutely.
things.
Yeah.
And they've got just one.
And you've taken the art out. So absolutely, we've got to bring the art of teaching back to the teaching profession and get away from the socialism of teaching. Yeah. Cole Cal.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Charles Wood.
Charles Wood.
Alpine District 2. The other thing that I'm seeing, Cole nailed it.
The other thing that I'm seeing is I've talked to teachers. I don't know if you see the grade scales for the students, but they're completely different from when I was a kid, right? You can get a B with like a 75%, right? And you look at that and you go, well, what happened? Well, Common Core happened. I've talked to so many teachers and they're explaining, well, we had to lower that because not all the kids get it. And then the other thing that they've had to do is they've had to pick and choose which parts of the curriculum to teach, because Common Core doesn't give them the framework they need in order to cover this stuff. And as Cole's saying, then they all wind up teaching the same. The other issue, I have a background with both charter schools, public schools, and homeschooling. And this takes away a lot of the laboratory effect that we get from the charter schools that would better our education system as a whole, because then we start to see, oh, that works over here, this works over there, and this works over there, and this isn't working over here, so we're going to try this. And it short circuits all of that so that we can't see where the problems exist, where the solutions lie, and what we're doing.
Just a quick comment. I'm Lana Nelson. My big problem with it is I feel that their primary goal is to remove the parent from being involved in helping their child. I sat down with my son in first grade math. I couldn't even understand that. That was frustrating to me. And he's thinking that I'm stupid. You know, that's what they want to teach their kids too.
And many, many parents don't understand to help their kids anymore.
Other questions?
Because it's just one thing that they're learning in one way, and they need to get rid of Common Core.
My name is Elaine Wilding, and I am precinct chair, and this is a question for you, Jason. How are you going to address your past when you're running in a state that blindly supported Evan McMullen, like 30%, when they found out that Trump was saying things that maybe you'd only say in a locker room? Because I think it's really important. This is the first that I've heard that you have a past that has some dark points. We've all got a past. But I think how you're going to approach this when it gets to the vote of the people, because you know it's going to come up and they're going to probably use it to really smear you. Please address that.
Probably.
Yeah.
How many of you got the email?
Got it already.
Okay, yeah, they're just warming up.
Yeah.
I mean, the answer is this. I address it. I have no skeletons in my closet. I have a past. I've made mistakes. But that version of me, I've dealt with. He's gone. You can talk to my kids. I would not trade my past. I would not trade it. The man I am today versus the man I was before I made that trip down towards hell, I see the world in a very, very different way now. I have a much different understanding of life, and a much different understanding of the importance of the family, much different understanding of what happened as a child and why that's affected, why divorce is generational, a much different understanding of why the world needs men. That has taught me, I would consider the process I went clawing my way out of that darkness the most valuable. There is nothing. The things I learned there's no schooling, nothing I learned in society that could teach me what I learned there. So, yeah, I have a past. I made some serious mistakes. They're going to have a lot of fun dragging in the mud, but yes, it is. Does the prodigal son return? He does. Does that answer your question?
I think it says a lot more. I have a past too. I got divorced 5 years ago, got remarried 3 years ago. I'm an open book, and you're welcome to ask me any questions you want about that past. But I think it says more about the person who's trying to dig that stuff up, and trying to, bring that dirt to the election than it does, why not focus on the issues and who you are and what you are?
Unfortunately, though, it works because, like Evan McMullen, we've got an example of somebody who got votes and nobody even knew who he was, and they voted for him because they thought Trump had it.
And they also voted for Mitt Romney.
Yeah.
Because of his name, right? But I think we're waking up. I do too. I think we're waking up, and I think people are starting to recognize you can't just blindly vote based on a religion or based on some of those, name recognition. So,
Thanks, Cole. Let's move on to another question.
So I'm a state delegate, and I have been breaking down 5 major points of what I was trying to figure out what would be the best for my area, including with the federal position. So I'm going to ask my question where it kind of fits in with most of you. So this really comes down to the spending part, and where I truly believe that the federal government needs to be completely defund the Department of Education. And since we have a lot of people that are running for school boards, and then we have a Congress person, I believe this is wondering your thoughts on it, because then the second part of it is, then it goes also to Jason, is the other part where I believe the federal government got way too into deep is where we're also backing student loans. So now we have colleges that are like, yep, come on in, we're gonna brainwash you and just keep turning over the mill because the government's gonna pay for it.
So again, I like to bring things to principles. And one of the things the founding fathers taught is the government closest to us is the most effective government. That's why they gave so little power to the federal government. This Department of Education has no constitutional foundation. It needs to be defunded, it needs to be abolished, period. I mean, that is the root of our problems, because where are all the textbooks coming? It's all, you gotta cut the head off the snake. So that's the first thing on is the Department of Education needs to be, I think it does need to be shut down.
Any other questions on the spending?
Well, the second question is your thoughts on student loans and the government.
Okay, so there again, that comes to principles. Do I have the right to take from Annie her hard-earned money and pay for your student loans? That's when we have a government that wants to redistribute wealth. That's to me that there's no foundation for them having even the right to do that.
I'm gonna try to be quick, because one of the things when I got into education, I learned real early: make friends with the custodians, okay, the secretaries, and the lunch ladies. Okay, so I help out my lunch ladies every day. I go into the lunchroom, I help them out for about 5 to 10 minutes, and I run one of their lunch lines. Okay, do you guys know that kids? It doesn't matter if you live in a $5 million home right now. Every kid is getting free lunch right now, and they're still getting free lunch right now. And what do they keep giving? They keep giving kids free stuff, and keep giving and we don't stand up and say, no, sorry, I'm going to pay for my kids. No, we don't want your free stuff. Get your free stuff out of here. But they keep slipping it, and now we've come to expect it. Now people come to expect that their lunch is going to be free. We're feeding them 2 out of the 3 meals. So we've got to get it out now.
My name is Pam Ogden. My question is for Adam. I don't know how many attorneys you have working in the office there now that actually file cases, so I'd like to know that number. And then could you answer the question, because my little suspicious mind tells me there are probably some there who have an affinity for David Levitt and his ways. And are you going to be able to eliminate them if they don't start following the law?
So the first question, we have approximately 7 attorneys. Sorry, she knew. So I'm Adam Pomeroy. I'm a candidate for the Utah County Attorney. And we have 7 attorneys in the civil division approximately, and approximately 35 on the criminal side. Now we have what you were referring to in part is how many are the ones determining charges. That's a screening team of around 8 to 10 attorneys right now. And then your other question was, so just so you know, those other 25 prosecutors are the ones going to all the various trial courts, adult court, juvenile court, etc. And the question is, for the ones that obviously have an affinity for Mr. Levitt, and see, I'm a big proponent of, you set a vision and you allow the people the opportunity to follow your vision. If someone's insubordinate, you have HR processes for that, but I truly believe that by providing the correct vision to your employees, providing the opportunity for mastery and growth and for training, they will rise to the occasion. And unfortunately, if 1 or 2 don't, we'll have a process for that.
Greg Adams, So this question is actually going to be for Bill and also as well as for Jason. So we do have a broken system right now. I want to give you an example of that. I have a business that has 2,000 stores waiting for our product, but we can't get our packaging or our basic necessities to build our products, to build our food product. Sugar and butter have gone up 65% over the last year. Our margins are completely gone right now. So I've decided to look towards the government. I looked on grants, I looked on websites. I'm a white man, I'm not a minority, I'm not handicapped, I'm not female. I cannot find a grant that will help me and my family. So the suggestion was, well then why don't you turn the company over into your wife's name? It's a great idea, except for she's 100% disabled. And if she owned that company in name only, it would completely take away all of her Medicare benefits, and she would not be able to get, and she's had 3 surgeries in this last year. When did it become bad to be a white entrepreneur in this country? And now what are you guys going to do to address that?
Yeah, you definitely got me. Gulag Archipelago. You guys familiar with that book? Yeah. Okay, Alexander Solzhenitsyn. What they did in Russia, and people need to understand the division. They're so divided, all the division in the country. Why is there the collectivism? What is this all about? The thing that people that we need to understand is human nature doesn't change. History repeats itself. What worked before will work again. What did they do to move the society into full-blown communism? What did they do to the producers? Okay, the producers, which is you. They labeled them kulaks. Okay, they a derogatory name, and they went out and told all the people who were on the take and said the reason you're in poverty is because of these kulaks. They're the reason that you're unhappy. They're the reason that you're oppressed. And they started putting out propaganda pieces, and I've got examples of the propaganda on my phone. For tyranny to work, you need an absolute welfare state where there is only one person that feeds you, and that is the government. What happened to kulaks? They put them in the gulags, the work camps. They killed over 101 million people. Middle-class people, people that believed in God, not the state. Jews, Christians, producers. There is a reason every time Obama or Biden or we get these left-leaning people in office, there is a war waged on the middle class. There is a reason for these shortages. There is a reason. We want to think it just happens, it's just accident. No. This is the same fight we've been fighting for eternity. And that is why the Constitution built a strong middle class with a strong financial backbone. What is going on is dangerous, and it is not on accident that the producers are under attack. The middle class is very much, there is a war on truth, and there is a war on the middle class. And it is essential that we understand the government is not the answer. Government is the problem.
Yeah.
So as I look through history, you'll see a few things in which it's always to control the people. Fear or force, and we've seen that on full display. Fear of what's going on, fear of your neighbor, force, either militarily or whatever. Religion. Religion's been used to control the masses of people over time. Education, the lack of it, that's always been used as that ability to control masses of people again. There are periods of time you go to a sermon or a mass and you wouldn't even know what they're saying because it's in Latin, right? But you have to follow. So that's been used. Right now we're going through a regulatory thing which is unbelievable. It's oppressing us in so many different ways. How many of you know about the ESG scores that are going on? That is absolutely unbelievable. I mean, it is such a repression on just what we have in the way of business, and it's coming down to the individual as well. We have to be awake of what's going on with these things. Our free markets will work; they'll balance out. But the problem is that we interject into them, and it's all about control, money and control. We can always tie that back to money and control. And so when you're saying, I can't have the opportunity, the same opportunity. That's all we want. Everybody, doesn't matter what creed, color, all you want is the same opportunity to at least have the opportunity to make something of yourself, to have an opportunity to provide for your family. That's what we want. And I think if government steps in the way, government is not the solution. In most cases, it's the problem.
Yeah.
We need to step out of it and let the stars of our communities be the true stars. That's the people, that's the businesses, that's our churches. Let's allow them to be the stars of our communities. Yeah, my name is Bill Lee. Say it really fast. It's one name.
Billy.
And I always know if somebody calls me Billy, that means that I grew up Billy all the way through high school. If somebody calls me William, I know it's a telemarketer.
And you're running for what, Bill?
And I'm running for county commissioner.
And you've been on the
and I am the county commissioner.
Bill's getting railroaded, so Bill needs your support. He's getting railroaded.
Yeah.
Give him
Yes.
the tax increase.
Support Bill.
Marie Nucitelli, Lehigh 318 precinct chair. So I'm state delegate, just went through the county convention. I'm trying to figure out the CD3 race. I'm represented right now by John Curtis. There's, in my mind, there's the know and the feel, and there's the do and the say. And I think all four of those things are what I'm looking at as I'm trying to vet the candidates. My number one issue is less contention. And my number two issue is, can we say and do the things that I know and feel our community believes in, the values and the principles that we have, but to say and do it in a way that is actually affecting change in a positive way with less contention. So one example, let me give you a list of words that I've heard. Social capital, human capital. We've also heard equality, tolerance, climate, a lot of these words. And the words that John Curtis is using are sometimes not from the Republican platform. So what will you say and do that's different than the other candidates that I can trust that you would represent me any better than John Curtis?
Make sure I've got your question there clear. So you're concerned about the division? Is that what you're with the word contention?
Contention.
You know what I find very interesting? Again, I was at a Natalie Cline event back in the summer, support Natalie Cline. And there was a rally outside, and there was the supporters of Natalie Cline, and then there was the Black Lives Matter, the LGBT. And they were fighting back and forth. The conservatives were singing church hymns while the McDonald, what's her name? Darlene McDonald was preaching her message, and the conservatives were singing over her, and the kids were looking back and forth, and the kids with the conservatives were looking at the bad guys and crying because the bad guys were yelling at them, and then the kids over here with the Black Lives Matter were crying, looking at the bad guys on the other side. And what I saw is these two, and I saw these kids, I thought, this is horrible. I was wearing a flannel, I had a flag, it was very clear where I stood, and I went over as soon as Darlene got done preaching her message. And I looked her in the eye, and I said, I want you to know, what did I say? I respect your sincerity. And I looked right in her eyes because I know she was very sincere. Her guard came down. She put her hand around me, and I said, one of the challenges I see is we over on this side are looking over here, we're dehumanizing. We see you as an idea, as an ideology. And everyone on this side sees them not as individuals, but as an idea. We're dehumanizing each other. And I said, where is this coming from? And the reality is it's coming from the puppet master who puts the news, the propaganda out there, who is trying to divide us. Because when we are divided, you've heard the story about the ants, the black ant thread, you shake it up and they start fighting. Who is the real enemy? I know who my enemy is. It is not the left. It's not the LGBT. It is who is creating this war between us. And why have they always done this? It's for them to step up. It's part of them replacing God and replacing them as the judge over all the earth. So the reality is when I said, you know what I believe every individual matters, regardless of the color of your skin. And when we talk on principles, we're not so different. And so I think that's the thing, is they want us up here fighting on the hot issues that they fire up. But when we come down and talk about individuals, that every individual matters, that we all want to have the same rights and liberties, that when we talk about principles, I love it when I have, liberals come and talk to me, because you know what? We all want, for the most part, the same thing. You just got to get them out of the weeds up here and get us down to what do we all want, because when we all start to agree on the same principles, we all want the same thing. So I think that's the biggest thing is, again, that's why principles matter. That's why these principles that this country is founded upon have lasted for so long. That's why they don't want us talking about it. That's why they want us fighting on these collectivist ideas. To me, it's the enemy is the power structure.
As soon as I'm done. Hey, my name's Josh Brooks, first-time delegate. Just finished the county convention Saturday. That was a good experience. Got a Spanish Fork 404. I'm an alternate for the state, so I just need to do my due diligence and participate. I've never been politically inclined. Didn't know it was in such bad array. First politician I met was Jason about 2 months ago.
Don't call me a politician.
We haven't voted him yet, but hopefully we see him in the White House. I just want to say thanks to all you public servants or people that are running for public office. I will get to a question for one of you, but Bill, thank you for your service and those school board members that are serving. I just think it's amazing. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of work being a delegate, just trying to see who you guys are and who you're going to be. I'm an author of my own life. I'm writing a book, but that doesn't really matter because we're all, like Jason said, individuals. We're sovereign, and we want freedom and liberty. Government should be a small thing in our lives, and that's what I always thought they were. Just in the last 10 years, I've seen the corruption. When the Twin Towers came down, I was an iron worker, and I believe that it was a nefarious thing to create the fear to control the people. It's been going on for a long time. So I've been reading a lot of books. There's a lot of stuff out there if you guys seek, and I know a lot of you know. Since before the state of Utah became a state, the federal government's been sending governors here telling us who we're going to listen to. So the corruption is deeper than we all know. We need people like these people in this room, people like us, to stand up and make our voice heard. My question, Adam Pomeroy. So we need as many people in office as possible. We run against Gray, right? Yes. I believe you're currently in that office and running a lot of the prosecution in that office. I would want as many people in that office as possible. I do like what Gray is standing behind.
He's also running against David.
Right.
David's
Right. So there's 3 of you, right, that are currently on the ballot. Correct. And you're all Republicans. So if we got 2 of you to stay in that office, wouldn't it be better for us in this county? So what exactly is the question?
Exactly.
The question is, do you believe that Jeff would do a good job in the position above the county attorney? If I believe that Mr. Gray would do the better job as county attorney, I wouldn't be running.
But the deeper question, I guess, is with 2 of you, would it be better than just one of you over the whole office?
I'm in the office with Mr. Levitt right now. If it was enough to have two of us there, the problem would be fixed. We wouldn't need to replace the county attorney. I fully understand what you're getting at. You're implying basically back out and let Jeff do this, or support Jeff so he can be there. The fact of the matter is I'm running because I believe I'll have a better platform, a better vision, and a better opportunity to beat Mr. Levitt than Mr. Gray. If he wins, I understand. I'll give him a fair opportunity as county attorney. That's not what I'm here for.
Thank you. So one more thing really quick. Do you know politics? You know the word poly, what does that mean?
Many.
Many and ticks?
Ticks.
Many bloodsuckers, you guys heard that? I said that before. That's the reason why there's so many of us that want to say public servants, because we don't want to be a part of the many bloodsuckers.
I'm Tony, and I'm 11 years old. At my school, so at my school, I found this book series, Dragon book series, that I was very interested in. So, but later on book 13, it shows some gay characters. Can one of you guys fix that at our school?
It should be clear thing on it. Yeah, to be clear, that's my fight as a mother. But can you help her with that? I absolutely can help you with that. Because we should be vetting the books that are going into the libraries. They're sneaking in, they have legs and somehow they get in. But you know what I think I would love? Is more children like you that are finding these books and standing up and saying, I didn't want to read that. And having your parents tell us, because there's going to be children like you that are standing up that nobody can deny. I would do anything to make sure that you didn't have to see that book. And I'm sorry it happened. But I need you to help us, okay? And we, Natalie and I, will fight our best to make sure that we have control over the things that are going into the library. Once they get in there, then people don't want to let it go because it's free speech. So we need to have children like you, and we will do things to take care of it as much as we can.
We had a debate the other night for my position, and the incumbent is trying to pretend like this isn't happening. Okay? This isn't happening in our schools in Alpine School District. And the next day, the district librarian, okay, and I'm not going to give it an official title. I didn't really want to out herself, if you will, but she calls me up and she says, look, I can give you examples of case after case after case after case happening right now in our schools. She said, I can tell you about a read aloud of third graders where the book was talking about suicide. And the kids were sitting down in front of the teacher, and the teacher is reading a book about suicide to the students in third grade, right? And so I agree with what Kim said. We need students like this who then will go home and say, Mom, and the thing that it should be obvious that I'm a conservative school teacher. If I say one thing conservative in my classroom, I will have a principal in my classroom talking to me about it, okay? The problem with us conservative parents is we're trying to teach our kids to deal with their own problems, and so we say to them, figure out how to do, you're going to deal with difficult people your whole life. We've kind of got to change that. We've got to fight the fight and start saying, you know what? Yeah, you've got to learn how to deal with difficult people, and your teacher may be difficult, but I'm going to go and make sure that this is not going to continue in my students' classroom.
One real quick comment.
Two more on that.
From a child's mind, they can't tell the difference. It processes what they see in videos and movies, pornography, the same as if it was something real they had seen. And if you think about what that would do to a child, observing that in real life, pornography, like in real life, observing sexual acts, that is abuse. That is abuse. And a child that is young, that were to physically observe that, if we were to let children physically observe that in real life, how that would mess them up the rest of their life, I don't think we have any idea the damage that is being inflicted on these young children. And if you look at the divorce rates in this country, and I know from personal experience, you look at the divorce rate, this country is headed for major, major trouble if we don't get this thing turned around very quickly.
Yeah, 2 more on the school board.
I mean, this is back to the identity question that we've had before, right? And I drive my daughters to school every morning. And one morning, my younger daughter, who's 13 now, she wasn't in the car, so I was just with my 15-year-old, who was 14 at the time. And she looked at me and she said, "Dad," she said, "I have a friend who doesn't know if she wants to be a girl anymore." And I was thinking to myself, this probably isn't coming from her, right? Odds are it's coming from somewhere else. And where's it coming from? And it may be sneaking in books like this. It may be, from other influences. It may be from media. It may be in the school. But the concern is that they are trying to teach our children that they are not what we are telling them they are, which is children of God. And we need to be teaching them the truth. And that is the major thing. And so if there are books that contain content like this that an 11-year-old should never ever see, that's not true, then it shouldn't be in school. And I put this on my website, I put it all over the place because I firmly believe it. There's a quote, and it's a sailor's quote, and it's not attributed to anybody, but it says, "He who is slave to the compass has the freedom of the seas." In other words, if you understand the truth, then you can go anywhere you want. And that's what we're doing to our kids when we allow this stuff into the schools. And the school district is the one that bought the book or had it donated. So we also, not just at the state board, but at the Alpine School District Board, can work with you as well to make sure that this isn't happening.
Very quickly, I applaud you. My daughter actually had the same experience about 2 weeks ago where she and a friend noticed a book that was not appropriate. And we were told that the proper solution was to go to actually in a debate with the other 2 incumbents I'm running against, this question was brought up, what's the process? And we were told by one of the incumbents that we should complain to the librarian. If that doesn't work out, then complain to the principal. If that doesn't work out, then work with the SCC there at the school. There's got to be a better process. The incumbent also said that as a parent, I had the ability to tell the librarian to flag my child's record and say my child should not check out this type of book. And I thought that's not a good option either. What's going to stop my child from looking at it, or another student from checking it out, another friend? There has to be a better process in place so parents know exactly what is in the school library.
What are you running for? Okay, we have one more.
ASD 4. Lana Nelson. Nelson. It's a common last name.
We're going to take one more question. We're going to have a closing prayer. Everybody can stay afterwards and ask a lot more questions of the rest of us.
Can I interrupt real quick? I just want to point out that if Cole, Lana, and I get elected to the Alpine School District Board, we're 1 seat short of turning over a majority of the board.
Yep.
So we we'd like to support.
Thank you. My name's Owen, and I'm an entrepreneur here in CD3. And first, I just wanted to say I was the one that did say something when there was a speech going on earlier. I said this is BS, and I was probably out of line for that, so my apologies. I was pretty fired up because I disagreed with the stuff being said. Some people came by and talked to me, and everyone wanted to know if they asked me to leave. They did not. Everyone couldn't have been kinder. They actually said, "Thank you for speaking up. I know David." He said, "Hey, we're all good. I've got thick skin." I said, "Me too. I'm sorry that was out of line." That's what people who love freedom do, by the way. We're all here to speak and be heard, and I appreciate that. Appreciate this forum and everybody having a chance to speak. And I have a question for you, Jason, which is a sincere one and one that means a lot to me. There's kind of 2 parts to it. One is, I've watched your videos about being willing essentially to speak truth to power. And I think we need that more than ever right now. In a room like this right now, it's easy to do that when that person will say Mitt Romney, because that's, a thing that a lot of people will cheer on. There's something going on right now that's really personal for me, where I feel like someone who may be seen as like a friend is saying something I really disagree with, and I want to know your position on it, and if you'll stand up when people do things like this. And that specific situation is related to what's going on in Ukraine. I lived for years in the former Soviet bloc. Those people are my dear friends. They're freedom-loving people who have been so afraid of what Putin would do to come into their land and take their freedoms. That's why I was so outraged when Tucker Carlson said that he's rooting for Putin. And when he says it's merely a border dispute, well, my friends over there are getting butchered in places like Bucha. And so what I want to know is, will you call out people even when they're on your side when they get it wrong? And in this case, I think like Tucker Carlson and the people that have spoken out in favor of Putin, they're dead wrong. If we're freedom-loving people, we stand against Putin, we stand against the Chinese Communist Party and everybody who's trying to take freedom away from people all over the world. So 2 parts to the question: what's your position on Ukraine? And will you speak up to people even when they're on your side?
Very good question. My loyalty is to truth. And I will tell you this. My loyalty is not to parties. It's not to people. It is to principles of truth. It's to the Constitution. I happen to have actually been very happy with President Trump. But if I pull up that list of all the letters I sent, do you know I can pull up 3 emails I sent to President Trump where I called him out? Red flag laws? I don't think so. There was a few things he did that I was not okay with. Nobody gets a blank pass. Yeah. Everybody must be held accountable. Yeah. Period. And as far as the Republican Party here, if you've been watching my videos, you see me call out Lieutenant Governor. You see me call out our commissioners, not this great one. I've stood up and for principle. When I think there's something wrong, I have stood up, even to the point where it's made it very difficult for me to run, because now I have a lot of people in the GOP that have made it very difficult, because I do stand up, and I not only stand up, I rally the people to stand with me. So I've caused a lot of pain in their necks. Now, as far as Ukraine, this to me is a very important issue. One of the things that Lincoln said, he says, if we ever fall, it'll be because we fall from within. The greatest enemy is always within. Just as individuals, my greatest enemy isn't Curtis, it's myself. Our greatest enemy right now is in Washington. And my biggest concern is we are very unstable as a nation right now. Our military has been weakened from within. Our borders are down. Our currency, our economy is in the toilet.
No leadership.
There is no leadership. And it's the same actors. Again, to me, I'm not just going to listen to the media. I want to understand what's really behind the media. And when I see the same actors who are saying, Trump this, now then it was, take this, take the, wear this, wear that, take the jab. Then all of a sudden, the next day it's Ukraine. And I'm watching the media, and what I'm seeing the media is showing a very one-sided story.
That's right.
I get very concerned about what are they trying to do here. I propaganda Israel. It's always been, it's especially since World War I. What Edward Bernays taught about how effectively propaganda has been used in this country. So when I look at the news, I'm not just trying. I'm watching from a perspective. What are they doing with the news? What is their objective here? And I see their objective is to stir up our sympathy, and not that we shouldn't be sympathetic of people who are being attacked. We should always care about our brothers and sisters wherever they are. But my bigger concern is, what are they doing? And when I understand that China and Russia, and I've been hawk on China, that is probably, if there's one issue that I can really dig in with anybody, it's China. I've been studying China for a long time. And China, we took from a third world country to a superpower. Our politicians did that, by the way. They have been selling us out. China and Russia have made an alliance. And when I see the media trying to get us to go to war with Russia, here's my concern. Once we go to war with Russia, I know damn well that China will attack Taiwan. Now we're going to be in war with Russia and in war with Taiwan. Iran will attack Israel, and now we have to defend them. We have the least reason to defend, to go into war over Ukraine. There's so much corruption in Ukraine with our government. Burisma, there's plenty of stuff, and even if there's not, the fact of the matter is that's not a war. That's between Israel and Taiwan. Those are our high priority, get our military in there. So they want us, the first thing is you get us in war with Russia through stirring up our empathies with Ukraine. But then we're going to have to defend Taiwan, and then we have to defend Israel. And when our military has been destroyed or really just taken down from within, when we have no leadership, when our economy is in the toilet, when our borders are down, we are in no place to be in World War III right now. And I'm very concerned about that. So again, I see the biggest threat right now isn't Putin. The biggest threat is in D.C. And this is why Thomas Paine said it's the duty of the true patriot to protect his country from its government. I see our government as the biggest problem in this right now. Does that answer your question? Very good question.
I think that's what Tucker Carlson was trying to say. I don't think he supports Putin. I think that's propaganda.
It is propaganda.
But I think he's being skeptical, like you said, Jason. But it's good to ask this question, so it's a fair question. But yeah, I watch Tucker a lot.
Yeah, to me, it is all nations fall from within, and our government is making decisions that definitely do not appear to be what's in the best interest for our country right now.
You all have been here for 3 hours. Thank you very, very much. We'd like to thank all the candidates for their time and for their willingness to answer the questions. There will be more events coming up. The state convention is going to be in 2 weeks, just under 2 weeks, so there's going to be a lot happening. Did you have one quick announcement before we have a closing prayer?
Yes. Can I announce this? All right. Hi, my name's Tammy Hirsch, and I am representing Moms for America. And we've got about 500,000 moms. General Klein and Trump does endorse us, and they actually were able to pay for part of CPAC. If you take one of these, you can click on here and get to momsforamerica.us. And Al Jackson, do you remember him? He was yes. So Al Jackson, who's come and spoke against critical race theory, and then Jolene, who's a master teacher. They're both teaching, oops, here we go. They're both teaching on Thursday nights. Sign up, it's a Zoom link, and when they ask you to be moderator or attendee, click moderator so you can see their slideshow. It's Mountain Standard Time at 7:30 every Thursday. We started the class last week, but it's the 5,000-year lead. And they do have on this website, they have the Healing of America series already available for you to watch and learn from. And also we have these 12 lessons about moms and how to teach your children about the Constitution and that we're a constitutional republic and not a democracy. And things like those and correct history. So I encourage you guys to sign up so that you can learn what Jason was talking about, the 28 principles of the Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you. There has been one last request to have each of the candidates state their name in case you're taking notes and you can understand clearly who's been up here. So we'll pass the microphone down and have you state your name clearly and what office you're running for.
So I'm Aaron Davidson, and I'm running for county clerk and won the Republican nomination for that position.
I'm Anna Nelson. I'm running for Alpine School District number 4, and I also won the Republican nomination for that district.
I'm Rob Dan. I was the highest vote getter, but I'm not the sole person running in the primary. But I am running for county auditor, and I would appreciate your support. Ask me questions.
Yeah, Rod.
Rod Mann, different county auditor.
I'm Charles Max Wood. I am running in Alpine School District, District 2. My website is chuck.school.
I am Adam Pomeroy. I am running for Utah County Attorney, and although I did not reach the 60% threshold, I did have the majority vote of the delegates at convention. Thank you.
My name is Bill Lee, running for re-election for Commission Seat B.
Yeah.
My name is Kimberly Grosso, and I'm running for District 11,
State School Board. It is District 9 now and will change to 11 in January if you're getting confused, and I would really appreciate your vote.
Cole Kelly, I am running for Alpine Board of Education in District 7.
Jason Preston, PrestonForCongress.com, and yeah, running for Congress. But honestly, you guys have the power to change this country. It's not us, it's you, it's the people. So God bless you guys.
I'm Renee Tribe. I am running for County Commissioner, seat A.
Yes.
So, I've been asked to address one little thing before we met. I invited a friend of mine. I was back in my BYU days, I was a public relations director for Mike Lee. And I've known him for 30 years. He's lived in my neighborhood. I've been Mike Lee's state delegate 200 times until he moved to Provo. So I love Mike and Sharon. My wife and I attended their wedding. We're good friends. And I've stayed in touch, although I try not to interfere with Mike because he's so busy and he knows many, many of you. And I just don't want to be one of those guys that are always pulling at his shirt strings. So nevertheless, a couple weeks ago, I invited Mike Lee to be part of this particular forum. And our original intent was to have multiple layers of government here, or at least candidates for government to be represented. I really wanted American Heritage to be involved in this because of the principles that they represent. And there's kids here, and yet American Heritage has to take a neutral position on an event like this. They don't want to be promoting a particular candidacy. So there's some sensitivities that I had as I was organizing something like this on behalf of good people. It was instigated by my meeting Jason and feeling inspired by the Hebrew event. So I tapped into Mike Lee about two and a half weeks ago, and I invited him to show. And he said he was really busy with the Supreme Court nomination, and he's been busy in DC since. And he wasn't able to get back to me until late this afternoon. He said he was willing to come. But in willing to come, Mike was coming because, quite frankly, Jason, all due respect, it was kind of a Pike Goss event. It was a college buddy event, and he knew that it was going to be neutral parties, and he wasn't intending on making an endorsement or something like that. There's been some confusion going on between some emails and some statements between Mike Lee's campaign and possibly Jason's that it was an interference or a possible endorsement that wasn't meant to be. I'm a total amateur at this kind of stuff, and so if there's anything that's gone awry, it was out of a state delegate, just an innocent citizen trying to drum up as many voices so we have a forum to talk and to communicate. It wasn't meant to be to connect candidates to other candidates. It really, really wasn't. So I hope you don't take it that way, regardless of what might be written in the Salt Lake Tribune. Because they will twist all of this outside of what it ever was. I've told you the truth. You know the wholeness of it all. We came at this as wanting to be an event. We knew that the primary speaker here was going to be Jason. We were excited about that. There will be other opportunities for other candidates to speak. I just want you to know where the truth comes from. Alexia, is that fair enough? Okay. I just love the people. So. We're ready to wrap up. You can stay afterwards if you like. Thank you.